Good morning. My name is Marcia Connett. I am the Southeast Regional Consultant for Wisconsin Literacy, and I am thrilled that you are here. With us on the call today are some of the Wisconsin Literacy staff members, and I'm going to ask each of them to just unmute and introduce themselves. Shannon, if you want to start, if you'd like to introduce yourself, she's on our controls today.
Yes, hi, good morning. I'm Shannon Mason-Young, and I am the Northwest Regional Community Coordinator.
Okay, and Anna, I know you're out there if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, this is Anna Beer. I'm the Northeast Regional Literacy Consultant.
Wonderful. And Cassie, you're there.
Hi, I'm Cassie McLean. I'm the North Central Regional Community Coordinator.
Wonderful. And Beth, I know you're out there somewhere.
Hi, I'm Beth Gaitan. I'm the Southwest South Central Literacy Consultant.
Great. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to How They Do That. We're talking about adding quizzes and wonderful things to some of the virtual programming that you're doing. We will be recording today's session. In fact, we are recording as of right now, and it will be up on our website and will also, I think, be emailed out to you a little bit later on today with a recap of everything that we're covering. If you have questions as we move through our program with Caitlin, I invite you to type your questions in the chat box. You'll most likely find that down at the bottom of your screen. If you put your cursor down that way, you'll see where it says chat. And you can just type in there. Everyone will see what you type. And Cassie will be monitoring that, and we'll try to jump those questions in as soon as you ask them, or as soon as there's a little break in the action so that we stay in the moment. I also want to remind you that you'll be receiving an evaluation of today's program. Please fill that out. It'll only take you a minute or less, but your information, your opinions are really important to us. And we also give you the option in there to tell us what other programs you'd like to see us offer to you on these Thursday morning coffee chats. So I think I also, before I introduce our guest, I want to remind you that next Thursday, there will be one more, the third in this three-part series of How They Do That. And next week, we're going to be talking about Zoom. And Caitlin's going to tell us not just the basics of Zoom, although I know many of you are interested in that, but all the cool things that Zoom can do. So I encourage you, if you haven't signed up for that, please do it. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome and introduce Caitlin Lewis. Caitlin is with the International Learning Program, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself. Caitlin, it's all yours.
Great, thanks, Marcia. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to Wisconsin Literacy for having me again in our second part of this three-part series of How They Do That. Today, we're going to be looking at the different Google applications you can use in your classroom, such as Google Forms, which you can turn into Google Quizzes. And also, we're going to be looking at how to create a free Google website for your students that you can send out to them and they can use as class time or for homework. I'm a citizenship instructor at the Neighborhood House International Learning Program. We're a nonprofit located here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So for today's agenda, the very first thing I'm going to do is we're going to discuss the benefits of the Google apps that you can find in your free Gmail account. Then we're going to look at Google Forms and Google Quizzes, and I'm going to show you how I create quizzes for my students to take. And then the last thing we'll look at is how to create a Google website. So let's dive right in because I've got a lot of material for you today. And again, we're the International Learning Program. We're a program of Neighborhood House of Milwaukee. We're located a few blocks west of the Marquette campus downtown Milwaukee. If anyone knows where the Rave is, we're basically right across the street in the basement of Central United Methodist Church. If you would like to learn more about our free citizenship classes and free English classes for refugees and asylum seekers, you can check us out on Facebook at International Learning Program. So I want to start with why I choose Google Apps over using Microsoft products. And one of the big reasons is it is free. The account that I use for work and for our students is through our work email, which is located on which our work emails come through Gmail. And if you don't have a work Gmail account, you can also just create a free Gmail account and be able to access all the things I will show you today. I know it seems with Microsoft, you have to either have a student account, a work account, or a paid account to be able to use their applications. So a big advantage of Google Apps are that they are free for anybody to use. Also, you can share work easily with your colleagues. One new thing we've started doing is whenever we're working on any sort of proposal, report, we'll put it onto Google Docs or Google Sheets, and that will allow a few people to make edits and it all be on the same document. So you won't have different versions floating around. And that is also advantageous to be able to work simultaneously on one document while someone else is. And I know during coronavirus, this has been a big benefit to using Google Apps because my boss or another colleague of mine can be working on an application in a different office, and I can be working on the application in my office at the same time, and I can see the changes they're making and where they're looking. Or if you're working at home and the other person's working at home, you can, before I've actually been on the phone with somebody and I'll tell them like, do you see where my cursor is? And then they can scroll down to the document and we can edit it together. Another big feature is auto save. It automatically saves while you're working. You don't have to save it yourself, which is really nice. Again, today, the internet went out when I was preparing for this presentation. So I had to run home and jump on a different laptop. Everything was there that I needed. I didn't have to worry about putting it on a thumb drive, and nothing was lost when the internet went out. And the last thing is the Google Sites app, which I'm going to pull up real quickly. Actually, so just to give you an idea of what Google Sites looks like, this is our general Neighborhood House ILP digital literacy website. This is the one for our whole organization, and then we'll have announcements for students, and our bilingual interpreter has been working on putting these announcements in Karen and Burmese for our students. Also at the top, we'll have all the teacher websites. So students can come here and find all of their teacher websites. And also you can send the link for your website directly to the students. So they don't have to come to the general one. I know with working with students who are still learning different digital literacy skills, we like to reduce the number of clicks the students have to make to be able to find what they need. But we wanted a place where if someone wanted to see what we were doing, or if a student did want to come and check out different teachers' websites, they would all be together at the same place. And then this is the citizenship website I have for my 30 class. I know the other teachers all have their different websites and people have different layouts. So it's nice, you can customize it to your own individual style, but you can also set different forms and banners, such as if you see up here in the top right corner, we have our Neighborhood House logo. And we can also, for all the websites, try and keep to our organizational color scheme as well, so you can see the unity even in the individual teacher websites. And these websites are pretty easy to make, and I'll show you at the end how you can start to build your own website for free. And hopefully this will save everyone some time. I know again, this is sort of a learning curve thing. When I started building these websites, we were actually, one of the teachers we worked with, she had been using it for a long time. And when coronavirus hit, she built a shell for us, and we were able to copy that shell, and each teacher could start from a base where it was already built out for you. When I was exploring Google Sites this past week, I noticed there's a lot of great templates that Google already has made. So I think those are a good starting point, that if you don't want to just start from a blank screen and you want to have some features already built in, Google makes a lot of great templates for you to save some time.
Caitlin, there is a question from Lily. We thought of adding something like this to our council website, a private page for tutors and students. Is this preferable?
Yes, I think if you're looking for an easy way to share with people within your organization, I think Google Sites is a great way to do that. It's a free service. It's pretty user-friendly. Because of the templates, they make it easy for you to be able to create your own website. And when you go into, I'll show you the editing features. If you go to settings, which we'll look at again later, oops, not here, or when you share with others, you can share with people in groups. So multiple people can also edit one website. If you don't want just one website to one person, if you want multiple people working on the same website, it can be easily shareable to people within your organizations. And you can restrict, you have different restrictions. For example, you can make it restricted, so only with people with the link, restricted, so only people added can open the website. So if you want to keep it within just a certain group of people, if you don't want this website shared with the general public, you can make it so that it's only shareable with those who you share it with. Or you can also share it within those of your organization if your Gmail account is linked to a larger work account, or you can make it public for everyone to see. So they've got a lot of different preferences, and I think this is a great way to create a free website for students you're working with. If that helps to answer your question. Okay. So we're going to start with, where do we find these Google applications? And you'll notice if you're logged in to your Gmail account, there's a 3x3 square of round dots up in the right-hand corner. So it'll be next to the settings and across from the search button. When you click on this little square of round dots, that's when it will pull up all the different Google applications. And so we're going to start with Google Forms. And so you'll see when I press all of these round dots, then Gmail, your Google Drive, Google Docs, which is very similar, which is Google's version of Microsoft Word, Google Sheets, which is Google's version of Microsoft Excel, Google Slides, which is similar to PowerPoint, and then you have Google Sites and Google Forms. Now, sometimes I logged into my own personal Gmail account to see if, just to make sure that you could still access these from a free personal account. And Google Sites and Google Forms did not come up right away. But if you notice here, when you're in the applications, there's a little scroll bar. So I scrolled all the way down to the bottom, and I found an option that said, so if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the Google applications, it says more from Google Workspace Marketplace. So I clicked on that, and then there's a little search bar that will pop up, and you can type in forms or quizzes, and that's when you'll be able to find Google Forms and Google Quizzes. So they are available to free personal Gmail accounts. So don't worry if you don't have a work Gmail account and you want to just be able to create this within a personal Gmail account, or if You want to, let's say you don't have a Gmail account, it's very simple to go to gmail.com and create a free account. That's what we've had to do for some of our students who are on Chromebooks when they're using Zoom. You have to create a Gmail account to be able to remember your preferences, and it takes probably, even if you were working a little bit more slowly and taking your time to figure out, I would say it takes less than 10 minutes to create a Gmail account. Okay, so when you go to Google Forms, this is what you'll see when you click on Forms. And there's a few different options for setting up a Google quiz. A Google form would be good for creating surveys. I know when I was ordering, recently I was ordering a custom-made t-shirt by a Milwaukee vendor, and they actually used a Google form for you to fill out your information to say that you wanted one, and then they connected that to PayPal for you to be able to pay for it. And then they use that Google form information to contact you and set up a time you could come and pick it up during their contact list pickup hours. So it's really amazing all the different things you can do with Google Forms. But today we're going to focus on creating a Google quiz for your students and what that entails and what that looks like. So
excuse me, Judy has a question. She says, I can't get the Forms button. When I click on More from Google, she gets a page, it's about.google. So she's getting something different. Any thoughts on how to get the Forms button?
Sure, let me see. Stop for a second. I'm gonna pull up, I've got to see which browser I'm in because I'm signed into my work email. So I'll pull up a different browser so I can pull up my own personal email and show you what I saw.
Okay, and I see John is giving her some advice. He says if you scroll all the way down that page, you'll see everything, including forms. So Judy, I'm not sure if that helps you out.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, let me share this screen. Okay, so here's my own personal email account, and you'll see, again, the square of round dots. I don't use Google Sites or Google Forms on my own personal account, so they also don't pop up right away. And so if you scroll down, you can see there are some other options, but Google Forms also doesn't show up on mine. So this is where I click on More from Google. So this is where it says browse all of Google's products and services. So you're gonna wanna make sure, so there is about, I see about, and then there's products. And then it says explore all products. And here's where you can see the list. Google has a lot of products. Google Forms pops up. And then if you don't want to scroll through all of explore all products, I believe there's a way to search. Search and explore. Devices. Google.
Okay, it looks like Judy got it.
Oh, great. Oh, yeah, and then you can see Google Sites down there. Good. I'm glad you're able to find it. That's a good question because I know it's kind of difficult if you can't. I'll show you another way in a second if you can't seem to find it. If you're signed into your Gmail account, there's another way to quickly find it, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So you pull up Google Forms, and you can start with a blank. We're going to look at what that looks like when you start with just a blank Google form, or you can also use their template gallery. I highly encourage you to check out their template gallery because, as you can see, they already have a blank quiz right here that you can start with, and all the presets will be there already. You don't have to go in and put the quiz presets. It only takes a second if you need to, but sometimes it's nice to just start with a quiz. And there's other things like they have a worksheet, assessment, course evaluation. So it's nice that they have a lot of things already built that you can customize versus having to start from scratch. So a third way you can do it, if for some reason you are having trouble finding Google Forms, you can, if you're signed in to your Gmail account, you could go to forms.new and just type that right into your browser, and a blank Google form will automatically pop up. But again, you're going to want to make sure you're signed in to the Gmail account you want to save it to. For instance, if I'm signed into my personal account and I do forms.new, it's going to save on my personal drive. Whereas if I want it to save to my work drive, I need to make sure I'm signed into my work Gmail. And you can check that by up in the right-hand corner, if you see this second arrow, you'll see your picture, if you have a picture with your account, and then it will say Google account, Caitlin Lewis, and then it should say the email address. I just kind of blocked out my email address, and you'll know you're signed into the correct account. Okay, so if you start with a blank form, and also if you start with a blank quiz, you'll see it says Untitled Form. You'll have to start by naming the form. There are two places you'll want to name it. Right up at top where it says Form Description, and then also up here in the left-hand corner. This one up here in the left-hand corner is the name that it will be saved under your Google Drive. Sometimes with this big one on top, when you name it, it doesn't automatically update the name over here to the left until you click on the left. And then sometimes it will just pull automatically that name that you put at the top of your page. Sometimes it doesn't do that, so you just have to click it as well. Okay. And then the second thing I like to do right away after I name a form is I go to the right-hand corner to settings. If you see what looks like a little screw, you'll want to, I believe it's a screw, you'll want to click on it, and this is where you can set the quiz settings, and also you can change the visibility to make sure it's either public or restricted as you need it to be. And I just do that right away to make sure it gets done. I've done it before where I forgot to change the settings so that anybody can view it, and luckily we have students who quickly texted me and said, "Teacher, we can't see the quiz, like it says restricted." I go, whoops, and I was able to go in and change it before all the students went and tried to look at it as well, so they wouldn't just give up and then I don't have any responses for that week. So that's why I like to go in and check those settings right away, just so you don't have to worry about sending something out to your students that would not, oops, sorry, my cat's jumping around my desk, would not be visible for them. So when you click on that settings button, you'll see 3 tabs. We're going to look under the general tab first. And this is where it says requires sign in. And if you'd like it to be shareable to the public without students having to sign into an email address, you'll want to unselect any restrictions. Again, this is when we're creating quizzes for our students. This is a quiz that is created through our work email. So this is something that's very important to uncheck, because otherwise only people within our work organization would be able to see the quiz. It is a nice feature though if you want to share something only within your organization and not just have anybody be able to fill it out. One of the fears we did have in the beginning of creating these Google quizzes was that anybody could go to a teacher website and they could fill out the quiz. We started using Google quizzes back in June, and I've still never had any random person fill out a Google quiz. So that fear hasn't actually actualized. So we're not too worried about making it public for people to view. But we also don't ask for any sort of sensitive public information. For example, even in Google quizzes, it says, you know, don't ask for social security numbers, don't ask for, you know, we work with refugees, who are immigrants. So they have an A number, which is their number with their personal identification number with USCIS. So I would never ask for personal information like that on a Google quiz, even though I'm the only one, or if I share it with another teacher, we would be the only ones to see our student responses. I just wouldn't want that data out there because I'm not sure how secure it is. And then you'll see there is another setting right underneath that restriction that says limit to 1 response. I leave that unselected. If you check it, if you check the limit to 1 response, it says, okay, then whoever's answering your quiz has to be signed into a Gmail account or an email account so that the quiz itself will know that, okay, this person already took it, so they can't take it again. So one, a lot of our students don't have email accounts. So I know a teacher of ours did set up email accounts for a lot of their students, and we would like to move to that direction of having our students have an email account. But for the time being, I leave that unselected so we don't have to worry about that. And a second reason why we like to leave that unselected is because sometimes students take a quiz multiple times for practice. And I know for myself, when I've been taking online courses, I like to if I take a quiz and I get a few wrong, I want to see, okay, which ones did I get wrong? I want to try it again, see if I can get them right this time. So I like to also be able to give students that option, but it is customizable to your needs if you do only want someone to take something once, but that means that you will have to make sure they're signed in with an email account. And then the last thing under general I wanted to point out.
Oh, excuse me, Caitlin. Let's see. Stephanie says, my settings do not have a choice for restricting. I only have the limit to 1 response choice.
That's probably, it must be a feature of just your personal Gmail account, which in a few slides from now, when you want to share it with other people, we'll look at how you can just share it directly with somebody else, and you can restrict that in a different way.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Welcome. So then the last one under general, it says, if desired, this allows students to see other student responses. I actually just discovered this a few days ago. I didn't know that that existed, and I think that's kind of a cool feature as well. If you wanted students to be able to see other students' responses. We really like peer-to-peer learning at ILP, so it could be an interesting option you could explore with your quizzes. And then under the tab quizzes, you'll see it says make this a quiz, so you'll click that, and that will turn on your ability to create an answer key and to assign point values to a quiz. Now this is where we're starting with a blank form, remember. If you start within the template of a blank quiz, all of these settings, when you make it a quiz, so you'll see this purple bar will turn on when it's a quiz, and then these 3 boxes down here in the bottom, whoops. My slides popped ahead of me. There we go. These 3 boxes down here in the bottom will automatically be checked as well if you start with that blank quiz. So this is where starting with a blank quiz saves you a little bit of time than starting with the blank form. If you're struggling to find Google Forms, you can just type forms.new, go into setting, and then make it a quiz. And this is the one time you'll actually have to hit save while you are working within a Google application, is when you change your settings to make it a quiz. So if you didn't start with that quiz and you started with a form, make sure if you make it a quiz that you save it at the end. This is when you will need to save it. So now we're just going to quickly look at, if you go to your template gallery and you start with a blank quiz template, you'll still need to name the blank quiz. And you'll still want to go to your settings to check visibility. And as I believe it was Stephanie just pointed out, if you're working within your personal email account, you won't see this restrict to other users. You'll just see limit to one response. And we'll look at when you're done with the quiz and you're sharing it, how could you possibly restrict it so that it just won't be available to the public. And once again, when you go to quizzes, and this is the blank quiz, everything is already preset for you. If you do want to make some changes, for example, if you don't want students to see correct answers right away, if you don't want them to see point values or what they got wrong, you can turn those features off. We like to keep them on just so students can see what they did wrong, and then if they want to take the quiz again, try it and study at home, we like to have that on. If for some reason, if you're doing something that you want to make it so it's more like an actual quiz, like how they take in class, you can turn that off and then discuss answers with them during your Zoom classroom. And one big mistake I made the first time I ever made a Google quiz was after I created the quiz and I had these different questions about what was tough for students, what was easy for students when it came to preparing for their citizenship interview. And I got these great thoughtful answers from my students, but I forgot to ask, what is your name? And if you do not ask what is your name, you do not get a name associated with each response for your quiz. So I had no idea which thoughtful response was connected to which student. And I quickly learned my lesson to always make sure you have what is your name. And then unless you wanted to make something anonymous, for example, we're going to be sending out student satisfaction surveys soon, which we don't normally require students to fill out their names. And that's something that we'd probably not ask for names, so students could respond anonymously. Next to the question, you'll see this box, which allows you to insert a picture, which we'll look at in just a moment. But you'll also see this big drop-down menu if you click here. For example, when I typed, what is your name for my question, Google automatically pre-filled short answer. It sort of picked up right away like, oh, okay, she's asking a short answer question. So it picked it for me. If it doesn't pick the one you want, you would just click on whichever one it says, and then it gives you lots of different options about how would you like your students to format their answers. So the two biggest ones we really use are either multiple choice or check boxes. There is an option for file upload. So if you are having someone to send you something, again, you're going to want to make sure that it doesn't have any sort of personal information on it, like a social security number and whatnot, because I don't know how secure the Google forms are. And they do recommend not putting any sort of personal information on that. But let's say you were having students fill out a worksheet. They could take a picture of it and actually upload it to the quiz. And that can all be found under this drop-down menu. After you write your question and you select the answer, if you'd like to create an answer key, this is where you'll find your point value and where you can assign the correct answer. For something like what is your name, we don't turn on the answer key. You can also have questions that are not worth any points and that are not that don't have one correct answer to it. So if you have what is your name or just a general response you'd like from students, like sometimes I'll ask them, how many kids do you have? So I leave the answer key off because there is not one right answer to how many children they have. And you'll want to also make sure that down here in the right-hand corner of your question, you click required. It will be gray if it's turned off, and you notice right now it's purple, which means it's turned on. That means a student, if they're filling out your quiz, when they hit submit, it will not let it submit them, and it will highlight the question that they did not answer. So again, especially for what is your name, this is a very important question to have required, because if a student misses that, you won't know who responded to the question. It will just say, you know, response 1, response 2, response 3. It won't have any sort of identifying name to that response. And then after you finish your question, there are two different ways to create a new question. You'll notice there's a box, a long skinny box to the right of your question, and pressing this plus button is how you just add a new question, but then it kind of starts with a blank format. Sometimes when I'm creating a quiz, for example, I'll have 4 vocabulary words that I'll be quizzing them on. Habitual drunkard, illegal drugs, and gambling were 4 that we looked at last week that students have to learn for their citizenship interview that they could possibly be quizzed on. So if I create a question with 4 sets of answers and I just want to reuse those answers and it'll change from each one, I'll just copy the question. So you'll see down here at the bottom by required and the trash can, if you need to delete, you can just press this copy button and it just copies the settings and the format of your current question. So the nice thing is then if you have required and it's already set up in the format you'd like, you don't have to go back in and change that again. You would just have to change the correct answer. So it saves you a little bit of time. I like to do a lot of copying, like whenever I'm creating PowerPoints or creating quizzes, a lot of times I'll just copy it and then customize it because it'll already have that base layout that I'd like. And then here, so when you are creating a multiple choice question, so you'll see I put in my question, I chose multiple choice. It will let you type in the different answers that you want, and then it will keep saying add option. You can also add other. So if you want students to be able to just type in their own answer, that's also an option when you are making a multiple choice quiz. And then you've got answer key. So you'll click answer key, which is in the left bottom of that question, to assign point values and the right answer once you're finished writing your question and your answers. So when you click answer key, up here in the right by your question, this is where you'll have the point value. It does, for mine, it sets automatically to 0, so I just up it to 1. You can have different point values. You can also choose not to have point values. Even though I choose to have point values with the quiz, I do that more as an easy way when you're looking at responses to see the average number of questions students got right. But if you don't want point values, if you don't like them for some reason, you can always have it be 0, or like I was saying, when I ask questions like, how many kids do you have? What school do you go to? I'll just leave the point value 0 because there's not just one right answer. And then I can look, you'll be able to look through individual responses to see what people say. And we'll look at that later about how to review individual responses. So answer key, you'll do point value. You'll then pick which answer is correct, and then you'll hit done. And you can add answer feedback. For example, if you wanted an explanation about why something's correct or why something's incorrect, you can also add that to your questions. If you want to insert a photo, which is something I didn't realize I could do until a few times after I made a quiz, that you could also insert photos alongside your quiz, which I think is a really helpful tool for ELL learners. One thing we really like to do at ILP is really have different formats for when students are learning, like having listening activities, having reading activities, having lots of photos for our students, and trying to reduce incidental language, especially for our lower level learners. And so I find it's handy to also put a photo in to help jog the student's memory. So if you click that button photo, you'll notice insert image will come up. So if you already have a photo that you would like to upload to your question, you can just click on upload and you'll go to browse, and the browse will allow you to go within your folders on your computer to find the photo you already have saved. Sometimes when I'm creating a quiz, I don't want to have to do an extra Google search to find photos I like. I like to just be able to search for the photos while I'm creating quiz. So you'll notice on the tabs along the top, There's also Google image search. So you can do a Google image search in the quiz itself. You don't have to open up a new browser and browse through a bunch of different Google images. It allows you to do that within the quiz feature. Also, if you want to just take a picture of yourself, there's camera. You can use the photos on your computer or on your Google Drive. For example, sometimes I'll take a photo with my phone of students and I might upload it to my Google Drive, and then I can just find it there versus having to save it on my laptop. So Google Drive is nice that you can save something there, and it doesn't matter what computer you're working on, whether it be your home computer, your work computer, a friend's computer, a family member's computer. You can be working on any computer and you'll still be able to find that photo as long as you are signed into your Google Drive. So if I was doing a Google image search, for example, for habitual drunkard, I looked up person drinking alcohol. So I picked which one I liked. I clicked on the photo, and then you'll see a blue box down in the bottom with the word insert. Let's say you click on the wrong photo, you can just click this X button here and it'll let you reselect a different. And then I put insert. I think someone asked me last week where I found the graphics. I just used the free images from Google searches. And then sometimes these photos can be really big. I like to make them a little bit smaller so it's not so hard when students are scrolling on their phone. Something that I didn't mention before, but one of the reasons why we like to use Google websites, students can actually pull it up on their phone, and when you're editing your website, you can see what it looks like on their phone. So I try and keep the pictures big enough to be able to be recognized by the students on their phone, but not too big that it's going to cause them to scroll a lot while they are taking their quiz and working on their homework. So if you notice down here, if you click on the photo, then you'll see these 4 little blue boxes in the corner. If you click on those will allow you to adjust the size of the photo. So for this sample quiz, I just created one question to keep it simple, to show you what it looks like. When you're all done with the quiz, you can send the forms directly to the students. So up here in the corner, you have send. And we'll also look next at the Google website about how to just put that quiz directly in your website. So you can send it via email. So you'll see when you hit send, one of the tabs will have this little letter symbol. That's for email, and you can add email addresses to just send it to certain people's email. That's how, if you want to keep it private and just send it directly to somebody, you can send it to someone's email and click send. Or if you are like our center where a lot of students don't have email addresses set up yet, you can go to the hyperlink button, which is that oblong circle with the dash in the middle. And then you'll notice you'll want to make sure shorten URL is checked. If you go to that, initially it's going to be a long HTTPS forms blah, 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 and it's a billion words, which makes a very long link to send, which can make it hard when you're trying to pass it on to students, that it's easy to get, maybe a letter gets left out or a number gets left out, and then it's hard, the link will no longer work. So they have a shorten URL button that you can click and it shortens it down. It's still not the shortest, but it's not as long as if you leave that. So that way you can just have a link. Let's say you have a website and you just want to post that link in your website, or if you want to post that link on Facebook, or if you want to post the link just by copying that link and then texting it to students, you can do that as well. Or you could also just copy the link and put it into an email and send it out to a bunch of people that way. You don't have to use the email function. You can just make it a link that you can share with other people. And then you'll hit copy and it will automatically copy it on your computer. It can get a little tricky if you want to take that link and then copy it to your phone. Sometimes I'll send it to I'll send myself an email and then just open up my email on my phone, and then the link will be there, and then I'll copy it, and then that's how I'll text it to students, by just emailing it to myself instead of having to make sure I type out this short, even though, like I said, it's a shortened link, but it's still pretty long. So emailing it to yourself using the email on your phone, that allows you to be able to copy that link, and then you can text it directly to your students. Which has been really exciting, being able to text students. One of our teachers who actually works with our lowest level learners was just reporting in our staff meeting that he's getting a great participation rate from his students. And originally we weren't sure how easy this would be for his students, and to see that they're all able to do that, and he'll just text that link to his students. And also put it on the website for them as well. But that's, if you want to kind of start small, if you're working with people who struggle with knowing how to use their phone like this, maybe it might be easy to start first by texting them the quiz and then building a website so they get used to just clicking that link from their text message to kind of slowly scaffold them up to using a website. So after you're done with their quiz, you can go back. Let's say you exit out, you send it out to everybody. A few days later, go back to your Google Forms, in your Google Drive, or you can also go to your Google Drive. I know a lot of times, if you have a lot of different documents in your Google Drive, if you just open up the Google Drive, you'll see every single little thing you have saved under there. So if I'm just specifically looking for a quiz that I've created, I'll go to forms directly. So then it will only show me quizzes and forms, and that kind of reduces the amount of documents I have to search through. So then we'll see here, sample quiz, and you'll click on it. And a lot of times too, it will tell you that you have new responses, and that means somebody's taken your quiz. So you'll see the new responses up on top, right above the name of your quiz. There's questions, and then there are responses. When you see a number by responses, that means people are taking your quiz, and you can see how many people have taken it. Sometimes you'll notice a lower number, and then that might indicate to me that there was a difficulty for students being able to access a quiz. Or that students, maybe they forgot about taking the quiz. I'll send it out. Like typically today, I send out the quiz for students to take over the weekend before class on Tuesday. On Monday, I came to work and I noticed only 12 students of the 25 in my class had taken the quiz. So I checked to see under responses who had taken the quiz, because under responses, you'll see I just wrote sample student 1. But you'll see the student names when they type them in under what is your name. So I could see who did take the quiz and who hadn't taken the quiz. And I just texted those students one more time, a short reminder, hi, don't forget to take this quiz before class. And I got, by the end of that day, I noticed that almost all of the students had taken the quiz. So I was like, great. So that's nice that under responses and under summary, you can actually see all the student names. Also why it's important to ask for their names, and you can check to see, okay, how many students did actually take this quiz. Something we've started doing too, you can actually go to individual responses, which we'll look at in just a second, and you can print out their response. We have to include samples of student homework in our student files for our record keeping. So this is a nice feature that now with virtual learning and most of our work done in classrooms, it's kind of difficult for students to take pictures of their work and text it to your teachers. Plus it can be kind of overwhelming as a teacher if you have all the students in your class, like citizenship for one class, I have like 25 students. The other citizenship teacher, he has 60 students. So if 60 students were to text him a picture of his homework, it's sort of a lot of work to sort through that all. Whereas with a Google quiz, you can go to the responses you want and print them off and keep them as proof that you are using this for class time. And then again, that tab, when you click on responses, the 3 tabs, you'll get summary, question, individual. And individual is where it will tell you, okay, this student, student number 1, this is what they got wrong, this is what they got right, and how did they do. You might notice though, if responses is a larger number than the students you have in your class or the amount of people you sent it out to, it's just because somebody's taken that quiz multiple times. And it will show you because of what is your name. It will then, sometimes you'll see a little bar graph. For example, I'll have one student, will have a big bar that says 2, which shows me right away that, okay, they took it twice, versus one student will only take it once. But you can still look at each individual response they gave. So what it looked like time number 1 and time number 2. This we really like to use as a way to see how students are doing in class. That, okay, they took this quiz, granted maybe somebody else in their family helped, but ideally we explain to them that they should be doing this on their own. It's not going to impact their standing in class. They don't get grades. It just helps us as teachers know what they know and know what they don't know. For example, if I ask a question and I notice a lot of students are getting it wrong, it helps me to know, okay, I need to go back and review this material with them, that didn't stick as well as I thought. So it's a nice indicator to see how students are doing. But this is the time and that people are taking Google quizzes at home. So sometimes maybe you see somebody's getting everything right. It could be that they're having somebody in their family help them. So you really want to stress the importance of the student taking the quiz by themselves. Then maybe a family member can help them if they need help accessing it, but don't help them to answer the questions. Okay, so now the quiz is finished. We're gonna look at creating a Google website. So I already showed you before the Neighborhood House ILP digital literacy website, so I'm just gonna keep moving. So again, under your Google Apps, you'll notice you have Google Apps and you can go to, and you will click on Sites. Also, all of these apps that show up in your apps button are customizable. I realized my Sites button was way down low and I decided to move mine up right next to Forms so they'd be easily accessible when I'm working to create content. So this is, again, I highly recommend using a Google template unless for some reason we already had a teacher who had been using it and she was so kind to share it with us all when we had to transition to virtual learning because of coronavirus. We'd always thought about creating these Google websites for every teacher, not just the one teacher who had hers, but again, pre-coronavirus, a lot of the virtual learning kind of got put on the back burner to other things besides the work we would do in our computer lab, because we do like to practice in our classes digital literacy skills, but getting not only teaching the students digital literacy skills, but also teaching the teachers the digital literacy skills of creating a website was something we kind of hadn't put as our main priority until coronavirus came along. And so this has been a really great tool in our toolbox that we're glad to have and that we look forward to using as we continue to hopefully return back to normal, that we now have this set up. So for the example today, I decided to use the class template. If you don't see it right away, you can click on Template Gallery and you'll be able to scroll through their template gallery and find they've got a lot of different templates that you might want to use. I'm going to look at it from a teacher's perspective right now, so I clicked class. So one of the first things you'll want to do when you're creating your website is up here in the corners, and then also the big name right here in the center of your banner under, it will already, all of this will already be pre-created when you click on the class template. It's already all here. It has class name, class name, class name, and a home button, a week one, a schedule, and then also a newsletter function if you would like that. You can delete those pages if you don't want it, but I think it's great that Google already offers some preset pages for you so you don't have to just start from a blank website. You can build it completely from scratch if you'd like to. It just will take you more time. So you'll want to go in, you'll click on the text to edit the names, and then it gives you this generic banner of two students working together. When you're working in the banner, you can click on Change Image, and that drop down will allow you to either insert a photo saved on your computer, or again, you can do that Google search that we looked at from the Google quiz. So this is a great feature to save yourself time. Type in what kind of photo you'd like and do a Google search directly in your website versus having to open up a separate browser. Oops. And then after you name everything, you'll notice in your blank spaces, so something they had too is they just had a little photo box so you can insert a photo of yourself, add that personal touch to your website. And then if you click into the empty spaces, you can insert text boxes, which is the T in the middle, a hyperlink, such as a link to your website or a link to your YouTube video. You can insert images with this red button at the top, the green cloud with an arrow on the right, that's to upload from your computer, and then this gray triangle in the bottom, that's to upload from your Google Drive. So this is, we'll look at that in a second about how to actually upload that Google quiz straight into your website. You don't need the URL. If it's already saved on your Google Drive and you're working on a Google website, you can pull it in that way versus going and finding that URL. If you want to edit the layout of your page, you'll notice on the far right, you've got 3 tabs, and under Insert is also where you can insert text boxes, images, hyperlinks, and documents from your Google Drives. They've got different layouts for you to change. Maybe if you don't want so many boxes under your banner, if you want to keep it simple, or if you want to add more than the presets from the template, that's how you would change up the layouts of your page. You can also go to themes, and themes would allow you to change the color schemes of your web pages. So to switch between your page, like before or right now we're on home, let's say I'm finished building my home page and I want to go to week 1 to build week 1 for our students. You can just simply click on that week 1 tab next to home, or on the far right it says pages, and you can click on pages, and then you will see, go to the next slide. When you click on pages, you'll have all your different pages that Google has already set up for you, and they'll be right there, and that's how you can switch back and forth when you're editing them. You'll notice that home has this little house next to it, which means it's your home page. That if you click a link to the website, that's the page that's going to pop up first. You can change that. For example, like we said, we really try and reduce the number of clicks students have to use. So a lot of times, whatever week students will be working on, I'll make that the home page to make it a little bit easier for them to access. And if you want to add a new page, down at the bottom, there'll be a little plus, and you can just click on that plus and it'll pull up a brand new blank page. Again, another way you can do this is by duplicating a page, which is something I like to do. I used a lot of the same layouts from week to week, even though I changed the content. So to just make it simple and not have to rebuild the whole layout, You'll notice if you click on something like week 1, there's 3 dots that will pop up in the corner. And when you click on those 3 dots, an option will be duplicate page or duplicate page. And that way it will just say like copy of week 1, I'll rename it. And I've already got that layout and I can just go in and edit the content versus having to rebuild a whole page again. Maybe you may want to rebuild and you'll just want a new page. For example, if you were gonna have a different format or have different informations, that's totally up to you. And you'll see also with these 3 buttons that you can hide from navigation. For example, let's say I wanna build a few weeks in advance. I want to build week 1, week 2, week 3, but I don't want students to see week 2 and week 3 yet. You'd click on the page you don't want to see, and then you click the 3 dots, and you can say hide from navigation. So even when your page is public, the page that you hide from navigation will not be able to be seen by other users. You can delete a page, you can add a sub page. I haven't really played with that yet, and to keep things time efficient, I know we're kind of already at 1 hour. That's something else that you can explore. You can look at the properties of a page, and then this is where you'll find the option to make something a home page. So whichever week I'm working on, I like to make that the home page to make it easy for students to find. So let's say you want to insert your Google quiz. You would go to, so under the week 1 page, I typed in week 1 homework and it says click to add a text. So you don't want to click in the text box. You want to click outside the text box in just a blank empty space. Sometimes the text box will be very big. You might have a text box that takes up all the empty space. Sorry, that's not a very good drawing. And you can just adjust the size when you click on the text box and make it a little bit smaller, and then click on that blank space, and then that's where you'll get your round navigation tools. So if I wanted to insert that Google quiz, I would click on the From Drive option. I would then, when you do that, all your Google Drive pops up and there's a search function within the Google Drive. It got cut off on my screenshot. Right at the top, it'll say Google Search. So if you don't see it right away, you can just type in what you're looking for. And then you'll want to click on the quiz you want and click Insert. If you accidentally click the wrong thing, it's okay. Just click on the X and that will deselect whatever you chose. And then you can click on what you do want. And then after you insert, you notice the quiz just automatically shows up on the website. And so then we've got the quiz in there. Last week we were looking at how to create a PowerPoint video and upload it to YouTube. So let's say you've also got a YouTube video, or that's your own, or if it's somebody else's, if you're just taking another video from YouTube, how you would do that. Embed. So this is where you take that YouTube shareable video link, which we'll look at how to find. So you'll click that embed button. You'd want to open up YouTube in a separate browser or in a separate page. So if you're on YouTube and you're looking at a YouTube video, you'll notice at the bottom of that YouTube video underneath, there's the share button. If you click share, it will give you different options, like you can share on your Facebook, your Reddit, your Tumblr, your Twitter, your blog, but we're just looking for, again, that embed symbol, which is that same double triangle, like the greater than, less than symbols. And then you'll copy that link. And then you'll go back to your website. So when you click that embed symbol, the 2 greater than, less than, you can paste that link directly into your website. Click insert, and it'll also show you a little video, picture of the video, so you can make sure you're adding the right video you want. Then after you click insert, your video will automatically show up on the page. And also it's nice for students when they're scrolling on their phone. you'll just see the video and a play button, and they can just click it on your website and it will open up the video without taking them out of the website, without taking them to YouTube. They'll just be able to play that video right in your website. So everything's right there. The quiz is there, the video's there, it's all in one place. They don't have to go separate places searching for videos, searching for quizzes. It's all just in that centralized location. That's what's really nice about, instead of just sending out a quiz, you can put everything all in one place. So now let's say I want to insert some text box. I want to do some reading and writing practice for the students. Again, you would click, sometimes they'll already have text boxes for you. If they don't, or if you use one text box and you want to create a second one, you use these T's in the middle. You can adjust, once you insert a text box, you can adjust the size. See these dots on the corner? And then you can also, subheading is another way to change like the size or the style of a font, or you can just change the size if you want. I try and make sure it's a little bit bigger. It's easier for students to see when they're reading on their phone. But again, it's kind of finding that sweet spot of not being too small that it's hard for people to read on their phones, but not being too big that it's going to take them a long time to scroll down to the bottom. And then when you're all finished, you've got your quiz, you've got your video, you've got your writing, your text box, you'll hit publish. So if this is the first time that you are creating your Google website, when you hit publish, you'll notice it comes up to publish your site. You can actually make a customized web address. It's not only going to be sampleglass.com. You'll see it will show you, like for example, because I'm using my work email, it's going to come up under nhmilwaukee.org because that's our work email through Google. And then this is where you'll see the customizable sample class. You don't want to make it too long because then your link to your page is going to be even longer. So it's nice to sort of keep it short and sweet, but it's also a way you can customize that link. So let's say you had multiple people, like at our center where we have multiple teachers with different websites. One teacher, like my class is Citizenship 830. Another teacher could be Citizenship 530. So then that way it's easy to remember, okay, whose website is which. And then who can view my site. It's where you can manage anyone, and you can click on the blue to manage that if you want to change it. Another setting they have is request public search engines to not display my site. So again, if you're trying to keep it within a small group of people and not send it out to the general public, you could select that if you wanted to, and then you'd hit publish. Another way, so after it's all published, that means it's able to be seen by the public. You'd go to share with others. And this is where if you want to add a co-collaborator, so if you want to have multiple people working on one website, I know at our center, even though teachers have their own pages, actually multiple people can either be a viewer or an editor. So if you wanted just one website for everyone to work on, that's where you would share this with other emails, and there's different settings you can share it on. There's the owner, who's the person who owns the page. There's editor, they can edit it, or then there's view. So that's just if somebody wants to review it, but you don't want somebody to go in and make changes. It's always that fine balance of finding, if you have so many people who can edit it, then maybe somebody's going to edit something that somebody else wants. If you're a manager and you just want to be able to see what your employees are working on, you can just be a viewer if you don't want to be able to change things. Or if you do want a lot of people to be able to edit, you can make as many people as you want an editor. And then to actually share the links, you'll go to the links option underneath share with groups. And then under this links option, so you can restrict your draft, which we keep our drafts restricted. So a draft is when you're editing it, but you haven't hit publish yet. So once you hit publish, it's no longer a draft. But if you're still working on, maybe you're adding a new page and you don't want it to be published yet, then you can choose who can see the draft of that page and edit it, so it's not just viewable to the whole world. But then your published site, so after, whenever you make any changes, you'll keep going up and hitting that publish every time you add a new page or make any changes. Those won't automatically show up. You'll have to go to publish in order to have those new pages be seen by the people you want to share your website with who can't edit it. So I make my published site public. Like I said, we haven't really had any problems with people coming to our websites and taking quizzes and teachers being flooded with like quizzes from people they don't know. So we just want to keep it simple by keeping it public to everyone. This was a consideration we did take into account when we're deciding what sort of security settings we should have on these websites. So it may be a conversation you want to have, that if you want to have it restricted, you can do that, or maybe you want to start with having it public, but just in case you're worried that random people will just come and take your quizzes and you're going to be like, who is this John Doe filling out my quiz? And now I've got 10 John Does and it's hard for me to look at my students' work. That hasn't really happened for us. So that's exciting news. And then you can hit done once you're done. This up here, so in the same line with settings, share with others, this button right here is how you would get the link to the website. But then there's also a preview button right next to it. So this preview button, you can see it's got a little laptop and a phone. You press preview, it can show you how it looks on a laptop, how it looks on a phone. You also may just want to pull it up on your phone to see how it looks as well. But if you wanted to just check in your while you're working on your computer, they do have a preview option. So it gives you insight into how this is gonna look when students are using, or your participants are using different formats to view these websites. And then next to preview, this is the copy publish site link. So I'll send for each week, even though I make it a homepage, I'll directly, and the other teachers as well, will directly text that week to the students that we want them to just click on and see that week, so that they don't have to go up to the top and navigate those buttons. They can just click the link that we send them and it will show them the week that we want them to be working on. So when you click that, that's where it will show you the link for that week. Notice that it will be that custom URL / that week. So week 1 or week 2, or the weeks that I have are dated by the date. So November 24th, November 30th, or December 1st. That's what will be at the very end of that URL. So you can also, besides just sending this in an email format, you can text that URL. For example, to get this, to make it a little simpler on myself, I'll email this URL to myself, open up my email on my phone, copy that link from my phone, and then I'll individually text it out to each student. I know I have an iPhone, and the students that have an iPhone, it's nice when you send out the link to the website because it'll show up as this big blue box that they can click on, or you can insert it if you've got text on top, the link, and text on bottom in the text. You can actually see the HTTPS, but if you're an iPhone user and you're sending it to an Android phone, it's just going to come up as like this little circle white button, which sometimes students, it was difficult in the beginning to have them understand, okay, just click this. You could show them over a Zoom call. Sometimes during my Zoom classroom, when we have new students coming in who don't know how to use the website, I'll actually have my phone sitting next to them. I'll pull up a text message and I'll show them like with my finger of what it looks like and how to click it and how to get to the website. And we've had great success by just doing that, having students figuring it out. In the beginning, we do have a bilingual support specialist who could call them. A lot of our students, especially the lower levels, they needed that help of hearing it in their own native language to get the fact that they could just click it. It'll be nice if we're able to meet in person, or if you want to bring small groups safely, meet outside or meet inside, and give students that scaffolding of this is how you open up the website. And then, like I said before, you can make your most recent page your home page. And then again, anytime you make changes, you're going to want to press publish at the very end. If you ever want to change that custom URL, you notice after you've published your page for the first time, there's a little drop down arrow, and under there, there'll be publish settings. I believe that's what's next. Yes, so if you ever want to change it, click on that arrow and then publish settings right at the top. You'll see that will be the first one in the drop down menu. Like for example, if you had someone who had named a site after themselves and their name was in that link, and let's say they're no longer with your organization, if you want to then move it to somebody else's name or move it to something more generic, you can always change it. So when you click on publish settings, we'll say web address, sample class, you can change it. And then if you do change it, you'll want to hit save, and then that will save it. Google will let you know if, let's say, your web address that you want to use, your custom web address, if it's already taken, they'll say that's not possible, this is already taken, you're going to have to pick a new one. So there's no way for you. So it's nice that they prevent you from accidentally having the same link as another website to not cause confusion. And then you'll be finished. And you can keep creating and keep adding as needed. So now this is where, if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to take some voice questions along with chat box questions.
You'll need to unmute yourself if you have a question. This has been
like, oh, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, it doesn't look like we have anything in the chat box.
Okay, this has been absolutely amazing, Caitlin. There is stuff in there I never knew existed. So I can't wait to review it again. This was absolutely wonderful, and I can't thank you enough for doing this.
You're welcome. And again, I'll just add into the chat box these slides that I've created for today's presentation. I've made viewable to the public. So if when you want to go back and look at the slides to help you review, if you don't want to have to watch the whole recording, these slides will be available to you, and Wisconsin Literacy, I believe, will send it out with the recording so you can go back and look at these and review them while you're working on your own website.
Thank you.
We will.
Yeah, and I will send the notes and a link to the survey right now. And starting next week, you can just check on our website for the recording.
Right. Thanks, Beth. Yeah, Beth will be doing a couple of things. You will be getting the compilation of today's session kind of written out, and then also the links that you will need. And then, as she said, on our website in the next few days or next week. Also remember, next week, Thursday, our next Thursday morning coffee, in fact, our last for the year, will be the third in this series, and it'll be all about Zoom with Caitlin again. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. This has been just a marvelous session. Please feel free to share it with tutors and other staff members, or even other folks that you think just might be interested, because this is applicable in a lot of different cases. So again, thanks to all of you for joining us. A million thanks to you, Caitlin, for being here, and we'll talk to you next week.